What you will learn in this story: why stolen digital master keys let attackers impersonate anyone in an organization, how fragmented identity systems create hidden security gaps that hackers exploit, why unified identity and access management (IAM) acts like a single secure key ring, the 4 A's of identity security: administration, authentication, authorization, and audit, and how they work together, the role of privileged accounts and why they need extra protection, how federation bridges connect identity systems across companies without exposing secrets, why monitoring user behavior is key to spotting imposters in real time, how combining IAM with zero trust creates a digital fortress against breaches, practical strategies organizations use to manage identity risk at scale, why mastering identity security is a cornerstone skill for future cybersecurity architects. Chapter 4: The Master Keymakers. Zoe Chen was having the best Monday morning ever. Not only did she get to miss school for a dentist appointment, but her mom had agreed to bring her to work afterward to see what identity and access management actually meant. All Zoe knew was that her mom was some kind of digital locksmith who made sure only the right people could get into computer systems. But as soon as they walked into the office building, Zoe could tell something was wrong. Instead of the usual calm atmosphere, people were rushing around with worried expressions, speaking in hushed, urgent voices. Her mom's phone kept buzzing with emergency messages. "Mom, what's happening?" Zoe whispered as they rode the elevator up to the 15th floor. "Remember how we talked about digital castles having different types of guardians?" Mom asked, her voice tight with concern. "Well, someone figured out how to steal the master keys from our door guards, and now they can pretend to be anyone they want inside our digital kingdom." Zoe's eyes went wide. This sounded like the plot of her favorite spy movie, except it was happening in real life with her mom's work castle. The elevator doors opened to reveal what looked like a command center from a superhero movie. Multiple screens showed scrolling lists of names, colorful maps with blinking dots, and charts with red warning signals. Zoe's mom led her to a desk where a young man with tired eyes was typing furiously on 3 different keyboards at once. "Zoe, meet Tommy, one of our best door guard specialists," Mom said. "Tommy, can you explain to Zoe what happened to our digital keys?" Tommy looked up and managed a weak smile. "Hey, Zoe. Your mom told me you're interested in cybersecurity. Well, you picked an exciting day to visit. We're dealing with what we call an identity crisis, but not the kind where you don't know who you are. This is when bad guys trick our systems into thinking they're good guys." Zoe pulled out her notebook and favorite purple pen. "How did they steal the keys? Did they break into the building?" "That's the tricky part," Tommy explained, pulling up a diagram that looked like a treasure map with lots of different colored boxes. "They never came near our building. They stole the keys using nothing but a computer and some very clever tricks. Kingdom of many doors." Tommy cleared a space on his desk and pulled out a large sheet of paper. "Zoe, let me draw you our digital kingdom before the attack happened. Maybe you can help us figure out where we went wrong." He started drawing what looked like a map of connected castles, each with different shapes and sizes. "Our company grew really big by joining together with other companies, kind of like how several kingdoms might join together to create an empire. But here's the problem. Each kingdom kept its own separate door guards and key systems." Zoe studied the drawing. "So instead of one big castle with one set of keys, you had lots of little castles with different keys for each one?" "Exactly. And that created a huge problem. Look here." Tommy drew lines connecting all the castles. "To make it easy for people to travel between the kingdoms, we created magical bridges that shared key information. But we ended up with 16 different key-making systems and 47 different bridges carrying key information back and forth." Mom leaned over Zoe's shoulder. Imagine if your house had 16 different types of locks, some that used regular keys, some that used key cards, some that used fingerprints, and every time you wanted to go from your bedroom to the kitchen, you had to use a different key. Zoe wrinkled her nose. That sounds super confusing and annoying. It was. And here's what made it dangerous, Tommy continued, adding red arrows to his drawing. Some of the bridges between kingdoms were old and not very secure. The bad guys figured out that if they could steal just one key from one kingdom, they could use the bridges to eventually get master keys for all the other kingdoms. Tommy showed Zoe how the attack worked by drawing a stick figure sneaking into the smallest castle on the map. They started by tricking someone in our marketing kingdom into giving them their key. This person only had permission to enter the marketing areas and do marketing work. But that doesn't sound very dangerous, Zoe observed. You're right. By itself, stealing a marketing key wouldn't be a big problem. But remember those magical bridges? Tommy drew the stick figure traveling across the bridges. The marketing system was connected to an older system that hadn't been updated with modern security. And that older system had what we call master keys that could open doors in the main kingdom. Zoe's eyes widened as she understood. So they used the small key to get a medium key, and then used the medium key to get the master key? Exactly. It's like if someone stole your house key, but your house key also worked on your neighbor's house, and your neighbor's house key worked on the bank, and the bank key worked on the police station. Before you know it, the person who stole your house key can get into anywhere they want. Mom pointed to different parts of Tommy's drawing. This is why cybersecurity architects like your friend Marcus from yesterday talk about building integrated systems instead of connecting lots of separate systems. When you have too many separate key systems, you create pathways that bad guys can follow to get more and more powerful keys. Zoe started drawing her own version in her notebook, using different colors for different types of keys and bridges. So the bad guys were like digital key collectors, and they kept trading up until they had the ultimate master key? That's a perfect way to think about it, Tommy said with his first genuine smile of the day. The 4 magic rules for perfect door guards. After lunch, Zoe's mom took her to a conference room where a team of adults was having a very serious meeting about fixing the key problems. Mom had promised Zoe that she could ask questions, so Zoe raised her hand like she was in school. I don't understand something, Zoe said. If door guards are supposed to protect the castle, why did they let the bad guys in? Aren't they supposed to be really good at recognizing who's who? The room got quiet, and Zoe worried she had asked a dumb question. But then Mom smiled and said, Zoe just asked the most important question we need to answer. The problem isn't that our door guards are bad at their jobs. The problem is that we haven't given them the right tools and rules to do their jobs properly. Mom walked to a whiteboard and drew 4 large circles. Every perfect door guard system needs to follow 4 magic rules. We call them the 4 A's: administration, authentication, authorization, and audit. She pointed to the first circle. Administration means keeping perfect records of everyone who's allowed in the kingdom, what they're allowed to do, and when their permission should change. It's like keeping a perfectly organized address book that always has the most up-to-date information about everyone. Zoe raised her hand again. Like when kids move to different classes during the school year and the teacher has to update who's allowed to use which classroom? Exactly. And just like school, when someone leaves our kingdom, maybe they quit their job or change departments, we have to immediately update the records so they can't use their old keys anymore. Mom pointed to the second circle. Authentication means proving you are who you say you are. It's like having multiple ways to verify someone's identity instead of just asking their name. Like needing both your student ID and your thumbprint to get lunch at school? Perfect example. We call that multi-factor authentication because you need multiple different types of proof. Something you know, like a password. Something you have, like your phone or a special card. And something you are, like your fingerprint or face scan. The third circle was labeled Authorization. This means deciding what each person is allowed to do once we know who they are. Just because someone is allowed in the kingdom doesn't mean they should be able to go everywhere and touch everything. Zoe thought about her school again. Like how students can go to classrooms and the cafeteria, but only teachers can go to the teacher's lounge, and only the principal can go into the principal's office? Exactly. And the maintenance staff can go into utility rooms that even the principal doesn't need to access. Different people need different permissions based on their jobs. The fourth circle was Audit. This means keeping detailed records of everything that happens, who went where when they went there, what they did, and whether anything unusual happened. It's like having a security camera that remembers everything. Zoe was writing furiously in her notebook. So it's like having a really good memory that never forgets and can tell you exactly what happened if something goes wrong? Perfect. And here's the important part, Mom said, drawing arrows connecting all 4 circles. All 4 magic rules have to work together perfectly. If any one of them is broken or missing, the whole security system becomes weak. One of the adults in the meeting spoke up. Zoe, can you guess which of the 4 rules failed when the bad guys attacked our system? Zoe studied her notes and the whiteboard. All of them? Because you had too many different key systems that weren't talking to each other properly? The room erupted in impressed murmurs. Mom beamed with pride. Zoe just diagnosed our problem better than some cybersecurity experts could. Our administration was broken because we couldn't keep track of who had what keys across all the different systems. Our authentication was weak because we didn't require strong proof of identity for important actions. Our authorization was confused because people had more permissions than they needed. And our audit was blind because we weren't watching for suspicious behavior patterns. The Great Key Unification Project. Over the next few hours, Zoe watched as her mom's team planned what she called the biggest key system makeover in the company's history. Instead of trying to patch all the problems with their current mess of 16 different key systems, they were going to build one amazing master key system that followed all 4 magic rules perfectly. Zoe, imagine if instead of having 16 different types of keys for different doors in your house, you had one magic key that could open any door you're supposed to be able to open, but only those doors, Mom explained, pulling up architectural diagrams on her computer. And imagine if this magic key could also tell whether you're really you before it works, and it remembers every time you use it, and it automatically stops working if you're not supposed to have it anymore. Zoe's imagination was running wild. Like a key that's also a detective and a librarian and a security guard all at once? That's exactly what we're building. But instead of a physical key, it's a digital system that uses math and computer science to create something even more secure than any physical lock could ever be. Mom showed Zoe how the new system would work. Instead of 16 separate kingdoms with their own key makers, we're building one central key authority that will be the only place in the entire digital kingdom that can make and manage keys. The diagrams looked much cleaner than Tommy's drawing from the morning. Instead of a complex web of connections, there was one central hub with clean, organized connections to all the different parts of the digital kingdom. Every time someone needs to open a digital door, Mom continued, they'll ask the key authority for permission. The key authority will check. Are you really who you say you are? Are you allowed to go through this door? Are you asking at a reasonable time and from a reasonable place? If all the answers are yes, you get temporary permission. If any answer is no, you don't get in. Zoe was fascinated by the temporary permission concept. Why temporary? Why not just give people permanent keys like house keys? That's a brilliant question. Temporary permissions are safer because they automatically expire. If someone steals your temporary permission, they can only use it for a short time before it stops working. But if someone steals your permanent key, they can use it forever unless you catch them and change the locks. Mom showed Zoe a dashboard that looked like air traffic control for keys. This system also creates what we call behavioral fingerprints for every person. It learns your normal patterns, when you usually log in, which systems you usually access, how you usually behave, and it gets suspicious if someone using your identity acts differently than you normally do. Like if someone pretended to be me but they were trying to access the teacher's gradebook instead of the student portal? Exactly. The system would think, Zoe never tries to access gradebooks, and she's never at school at 3 a.m., so this probably isn't really Zoe even though they're using her password. The super secret VIP key system. After learning about the regular key system, Zoe's mom took her to meet Sarah, who had a very special job title, Privileged Access Manager. Sarah's job was protecting the most important keys in the entire digital kingdom. Zoe, you know how in a real castle there are some doors that are extra important, like the treasure vault, the armory, and the king's private chambers? Sarah asked, pulling up what looked like a video game interface on her computer. Yeah, those would need super special keys that only the most trusted people could use. Exactly. In our digital kingdom, we have super special keys called privileged access that can do things like change how the whole system works, access everyone's private information, or even delete important data. These keys are so powerful that we have to protect them differently than regular keys. Sarah showed Zoe how the VIP key system worked. Instead of giving people permanent super special keys, we have a magical vault that only gives out super special keys when someone really needs them, and only for as long as they need them. The interface looked like a high-tech library checkout system. When someone needs to use a super special key, they have to come to our vault and request it. They have to prove who they are using extra strong authentication, maybe their fingerprint, their phone, and a password. Then they have to explain exactly what they need to do and why. Zoe watched Sarah demonstrate the system. The vault checks whether this person is allowed to have this type of super special key, whether their request makes sense, and whether anyone else needs to approve it. If everything checks out, the vault creates a temporary super special key that only works for the specific task they requested. And here's the coolest part, Sarah continued. While they're using the super special key, we record everything they do, like having a movie camera that captures every action they take. This way, if something goes wrong, we can see exactly what happened. Zoe was impressed. It's like having a bodyguard, a photographer, and a timer all watching the super special keys at the same time. That's a perfect description. And at the end of their work, the super special key automatically destroys itself, so there's no chance of it getting lost or stolen. Sarah showed Zoe statistics from their old system compared to their new system. Before we built this super special key vault, we had 47 people with permanent super special keys, and we had no idea what they were doing with them. Now we have 0 permanent super special keys, but people can still get temporary ones whenever they need them for legitimate work. And look at this, Sarah pointed to a graph that showed security incidents over time. Since we implemented the VIP key system, we've had 0 incidents involving misused super special keys, compared to an average of 3 per month before. Zoe studied the graphs. So, by making the super special keys harder to get but also more temporary, you made them both safer and easier for good guys to use? Zoe, you just summarized the core principle of modern privileged access management in one sentence. That's exactly right. The bridge builder's secret. As the afternoon progressed, Zoe learned about another fascinating aspect of the door guard system, how their digital kingdom could safely connect with other kingdoms around the world without sharing their secret key-making techniques. Zoe, imagine your school wanted to let students from another school come visit for a field day, but you didn't want to give them permanent keys to your school, explained Marcus, a Federation specialist who had joined their group. You'd want some way for their school to tell your school, yes, this student is really one of ours and they're allowed to participate in field day activities, without having to give them a key that works for everything in your school. Marcus showed Zoe a diagram that looked like 2 castles connected by a bridge with guards on both sides. Federation is like having trusted messengers who can carry special certificates between kingdoms. When someone from Kingdom A wants to access something in Kingdom B, they don't need a Kingdom B key. Instead, Kingdom A gives them a special certificate that says, "This person is legitimate, and here's what they're allowed to do in your kingdom." It's like having a hall pass that works at other schools. Perfect analogy. And the really cool part is that Kingdom B never learns Kingdom A's secrets, and Kingdom A never learns Kingdom B's secrets. They just trust each other's certificates. Marcus showed Zoe how this worked with their customer-facing applications. When customers want to access our services, they don't need to create accounts in our main Kingdom system. Instead, they can use their existing accounts from trusted partners like their Google account or their bank account, and those partners send us certificates that say, "This is a real person and here's the basic information you need to serve them." Zoe thought about this carefully. So it's like being able to use your library card as ID at the museum because the library and the museum trust each other? Exactly. And this is better for customers because they don't have to remember another password, and it's better for us because we don't have to store their personal information or worry about protecting their passwords. Marcus showed Zoe different types of federation bridges. We have bridges for business partners who need to access specific work systems, bridges for customers who want to use our services, and bridges for cloud services that help us run our digital kingdom. Each type of bridge has different rules about what information gets shared and what permissions are granted. A customer bridge might only share basic identity information, while a business partner bridge might share more detailed work-related information. Zoe was fascinated by how the bridges maintained privacy while enabling cooperation. So you can work together without having to share all your secrets? That's exactly the goal. Federation lets different organizations cooperate and share services while maintaining their own security and privacy standards. The Behavior Detective System. The final stop on Zoe's tour was the most impressive room yet, a space that looked like mission control for a space program, with wall-mounted screens showing colorful, constantly changing data visualizations that looked like abstract art. "Welcome to our Behavior Detective headquarters," announced Dr. Lisa Park, a friendly woman with curly hair and glasses. "Zoe, do you know what makes human behavior predictable?" Zoe thought about her own daily routine. "Like how I always brush my teeth before bed and always eat cereal for breakfast?" Exactly. Everyone has patterns in how they behave, and these patterns are like fingerprints unique to each person. Our behavior detective system learns everyone's normal patterns and gets suspicious when someone breaks their patterns in ways that might indicate trouble. Dr. Park showed Zoe a screen that looked like a colorful timeline. This shows one person's normal behavior over a month. See how they always log in between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays? And see how they usually access the same 5 applications in roughly the same order. Timeline was mostly green and blue with occasional yellow spots. Green means normal behavior, blue means slightly unusual but not concerning, and yellow means unusual enough to pay attention to. Now look at this, Dr. Park switched to a different timeline that had several red sections. This shows what happened when bad guys took over someone's account. See how they logged in at 3 a.m. on a Saturday? And see how they tried to access systems that this person never normally uses. Zoe studied the red sections. The bad guys didn't know how to act like the real person, so they accidentally showed that they were imposters. Exactly. Even if bad guys steal someone's password and can prove their identity to our authentication system, they can't easily copy that person's behavioral patterns. The behavior detective system spots these inconsistencies and raises alarms. Dr. Park showed Zoe how the system worked in real time. Right now, the system is analyzing the behavior of 15,000 people across our digital kingdom. Most of the activity is normal, but see these yellow alerts? Those are people whose behavior is unusual enough to investigate. Zoe watched as Dr. Park clicked on one of the yellow alerts. This person normally works during business hours, but they're accessing sensitive customer data at 11 p.m. on a Sunday. The system doesn't automatically block them. Maybe they have a legitimate reason, but it alerts our security team to check if everything is okay. And here's where it gets really smart, Dr. Park continued, showing Zoe another screen full of data analyses. The system doesn't just look at individual behavior, it also looks for patterns across multiple people that might indicate coordinated attacks. The screen showed several user timelines that had similar unusual patterns. If multiple people suddenly start exhibiting the same type of unusual behavior at the same time, that might indicate that bad guys have found a new attack technique that we need to defend against. Zoe was amazed by the complexity of the system. It's like having a detective that never sleeps and can remember everyone's normal behavior perfectly. And the really cool part, Dr. Park said with excitement, is that the system gets smarter over time. Every time we investigate an alert and determine whether it was a real threat or a false alarm, the system learns from that feedback and gets better at distinguishing between legitimate unusual behavior and genuinely suspicious activity. The amazing results. As the day wound down, Zoe's mom gathered her team in the main conference room to show the results of their 6-month key system transformation project. Zoe had filled her notebook with drawings, diagrams, and notes about all the different types of digital security she had learned about. Zoe, remember this morning when we discovered that bad guys had stolen our master keys and could pretend to be anyone in our digital kingdom? Mom asked. Yeah, that was really scary. Well, I want to show you what happened after we implemented all the security improvements you learned about today. Mom pulled up a series of charts and graphs on the big screen. First, let's look at how fast we can detect and stop bad guys now. Before our improvements, when bad guys attacked our systems, it took us an average of 3 days to notice and stop them. Now, our behavior detective system and improved door guard protocols detect suspicious activity in an average of 8 hours. Zoe studied the dramatic improvement on the graph. That's like 4 times faster. And here's even better news, Mom continued, showing another graph. In the 6 months since we completed our improvements, we've had 0 successful attacks where bad guys gained access to important systems. Before the improvements, we were dealing with about 1 successful attack per month. Mom showed Zoe customer satisfaction surveys. Remember how frustrated people got when they had to remember passwords for 16 different systems? Now that we have single sign-on with our unified key system, employee satisfaction with IT services has improved by 40%. And look at this cost analysis, Mom pointed to a financial chart. All of these improvements cost us $3.2 million to implement over 8 months. But the attack that happened right before we started the improvements cost us $12.8 million in damage, recovery costs, and business disruption. Zoe did quick math in her head. So you spent about 1/4 as much to fix the problem as the problem cost you in the first place? Exactly. And that's just the immediate cost. The long-term value of having a properly designed key system is much greater because it prevents future attacks and enables us to implement new business capabilities safely. Mom showed one final slide that made Zoe beam with pride. But the most important result is that we now have a security foundation that can grow and adapt as our business grows. Instead of having to redesign our security every time we want to add new capabilities, we have a solid foundation that can support whatever we want to build next. Future keymakers. As they packed up to leave, Zoe had a realization that made her bounce with excitement. Mom, I think I want to become a door guard specialist like you someday. Mom smiled and knelt down to Zoe's level. I think you'd be amazing at it. But you know what? You don't have to wait until you're grown up to start learning these skills. Mom pulled out her phone and showed Zoe some websites and apps designed for kids to learn about digital identity and privacy. There are games and activities that teach the same concepts we use every day, just in ways that are fun for kids your age. And the skills you learn about protecting your own digital identity, like creating strong passwords, recognizing suspicious emails, and understanding privacy settings, are the same fundamental concepts that professional door guards use to protect entire organizations. Zoe scrolled through the colorful, interactive websites that looked like educational games mixed with adventure stories. These look awesome. Can we set up our home computers to use some of these security techniques? I think that's a wonderful idea. We can start with multi-factor authentication for our family accounts, and I can show you how to use password managers and recognize phishing attempts. You can become our family's junior door guard specialist. As they walked toward the elevator, Zoe was already planning her next adventure. She had discovered that digital security was like being a detective, an architect, and a protector all at the same time. More importantly, she had learned that the skills needed to protect digital kingdoms were skills she could start developing right away. Mom, what kind of digital protection will we learn about next? Well, now that you understand how door guards make sure only the right people can enter our digital kingdom, next we need to learn about device doctors, the guardians who make sure all the computers, phones, and tablets people use to access the kingdom are healthy and can't be controlled by bad guys. Zoe clutched her notebook tightly and smiled. Her adventure in cybersecurity was just getting started, and she couldn't wait to discover how device doctors protected all the magical devices that connected people to the digital kingdom. The master keys were now in the right hands, protected by the smartest guardians anyone could imagine. And Zoe was ready to help protect the digital kingdom too, starting with her own family's devices and growing her guardian skills one adventure at a time. Your adventure in building an unbreakable digital fortress continues to grow stronger. Next chapter, the device doctors, how magical guardians keep all your digital tools safe and healthy, where we'll discover how special protectors make sure computers, phones, and tablets can't be tricked into helping bad guys, and learn why keeping devices healthy is like having a superhero medical team for the digital kingdom.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel for the latest updates.